I have started 5 businesses from the age of 25 to today, 31 years old. Well, I'm nearly 32 years old. And I've started businesses from scratch. 4 of them make more than £10,000 a month, and we're getting the 5th one there too. Some of them are worth over £1 million. And I've learned a lot along the way, which I'm going to share with you in today's video from start to end with a ton of value. So trust me when I say listen attentively. I get asked the question a lot by people to whether I can be their mentor. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to give one-on-one support to a lot of people. So I'm hoping with this one video, I can give you guys a lot of lessons, a lot of value, and you can take a lot of feedback and you can get a lot of your questions answered, especially as I'm considered not necessarily an older business person. I'm 31 years old. And so I've started a lot of businesses recently, which therefore means I understand recent business trends and businesses that will end up doing well for the next 5-10 years, and as well as the recent businesses that have been doing well. But let's get into the meat of this video and let's try giving you as much value as I possibly can. And I want to start with, how do you actually go about starting a business? A lot of people want to start businesses but actually have no idea how to go about starting a business. In the UK, it's actually very simple. In fact, in most countries today, it's very simple to start a business. It costs you anywhere from £30 to £70. It does vary, and if you go through some companies, it can be a little bit cheaper, and if you go through other routes, it can be a little bit more expensive. That's in the UK, and in other countries, they make it easy for you as well. Now, I'll tell you why they make it easy for you to set up a business. Because the country's economy is dependent on businesses starting up. The economy of a country is dependent on you guys starting up small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses. And so I've set up companies in the UK, I've set up companies in Pakistan, and I've set up companies in Dubai. In the UK, it's very simple. £70, you probably have a company registered and incorporated within about 48 hours. When it comes to Dubai, a little bit more complicated. You have to pay anywhere from £4,000 to £5,000, and that is your fee that you will be paying on a yearly basis. There are 2 ways of setting up a company in Dubai. It's free zone or mainland. I personally, to be fair, would like to register a business in the mainland, though I have a company which is in the free zone. A free zone company basically means you are exempt from certain things that the UAE government may expect you to do, and a mainland business is treated as, you know, your company, your business is in Dubai. You can deal with people in Dubai. You can do business with people in Dubai. And a free zone business, generically speaking, is used to do business with countries outside of Dubai, outside of the UAE. And so it's a great way. And I think personally, to be fair, the UAE is a fantastic place to set up a business and have a hub where you are running your companies. You know, certain things are made very easy. Now, other things can be a little bit complicated, especially if you come from the UK. But as long as you sort of run through the things and run through the applications and run through what you need to, it's actually quite straightforward. Now, if you guys want to know how to set up a company in Pakistan, I don't know if you guys might not want to, but it's fairly straightforward. You hire an accountant, the accountant does everything for you, takes a couple of bit of fees and whatever he does, and you know, they end up pulling more strings than other countries. And so setting up a company in Pakistan is actually very simple. You probably just need an accountant or a lawyer. But once you understand how to actually start a business, which is, by the way, very simple and straightforward, how do you even come up with a business idea? Because actually, that is very, very important. I think that actually is something that people get stuck on, right? How do we come up with a business idea? And we'll get into how do we actually implement the business idea. What do we actually do when we have something in our minds? And because, you know, a lot of people come up with business ideas, as well as some people, obviously the ones that I'm going to address now, that don't have a business idea. A lot of people have business ideas, but have no idea what to do with that business. So if you don't have a business idea, the best thing you can do is actively try to come up with a business idea. So what do I mean by that? Well, some people think that a business idea just comes to you when you're sleeping, or comes to you when you wake up, or comes to you when you're in the shower. And though, yes, it might come to you at that point, the actual reality is, if you want to be active and you want to start a business, then actively start looking at things you can start. And the best thing I would do is go online and start searching 50 business ideas that I could start, 100 business ideas, 10 business ideas I could start in X, and 10 business ideas I can start in X. Now, it's not to say that you have to take a business idea that someone gives you. Actually, you might want to do that, right? For example, let's say one of the business ideas, it's a cleaning service business, right? Now, a lot of people have cleaning service businesses, but you might want to do things a little bit differently. Maybe you say, oh, we're going to attach a GoPro to the cleaners, and therefore you can see what they're doing all the time. And so in terms of security, you know, you'll know your items are safe, for example. See, it's a cleaning service business, but you've done something different, which actually brings value, which actually to the homeowner makes them feel like, you know what, I can have other cleaners in because they will be recording everything. And if the camera's not working, they leave immediately. And so that then adds a layer of security, which for the customer makes them feel like, you know what, that does work for me, because actually there's a pain point and I'm thinking, if I get cleaners in, what if they steal something? Well, that's how you deal with that, and you come up with something. So the point here being is, get your brain working. Make yourself start to understand that you need to come up with business ideas, and it's all well and good if someone is already doing that business. Maybe you need to put your own twist. Maybe you need to put your own tank. And so a lot of the people that follow me, for example, are Muslims, right? And so you can maybe come up with a business idea and then have it be particular for Muslims, because actually the Muslim market is huge. Billions of people, right? So you might come up with an idea and it does really, really well in a different community, in a different society, and actually think to yourself, well, if it does well there, then it could do well in my own community. And actually some of the biggest businesses are started based on that. And to add to that, some people have set up businesses in the UK, for example, right? A clothing brand, and I'll give you a prime example. Actually, to be fair, there are many clothing brands that have started in the UK, gym clothing, casual clothing, leisure, whatever you want to call it. But actually, the e-commerce market in the UAE, it's untouched. To give you an idea, the e-commerce market in the UK, it's worth close to 280 billion pounds. Now in the UAE, it's worth 6 billion pounds. The e-commerce market, the online market, it's not really gone through that transition that it has in the UK. Now, one can sit back and assume actually it's convenient, it makes sense, and it's cheaper. So actually, a lot of people should be inclined in buying online. Now, there is some cultural differences, especially when it comes to the heat and going to the mall. Having said that, if the mall prices are so much more than compared to getting something online, and you can get something delivered in the next day and you don't have to go to the mall, for example, then it makes sense. The point here is you might want to think to yourself, actually, can I have a business from the UK do well in the UAE? Can I have a business from the UK do well in America? Can I have a business that I've seen on holiday in America do very well in the UK? A lot of companies make millions and millions of pounds actually seeing businesses that are doing well in other countries and bringing them to the UK or bringing them to other countries. And to add to that, in the UAE, there are so many options when it comes to healthy eating, but guess how many options there are when it comes to the UK? I mean, if you search fit, healthy, diet, whatever you want to search in the UAE and Dubai in particular, then you have tons of options. Like I will say, you have close to 20 or 30 options that come up straight away. But actually in the UK, hardly anything comes up. Healthy options are very scarce when it comes to food in the UK. And so it's again an example of taking a business idea or a model that works in another country and actually bringing it to the UK and vice versa. And so to conclude on the part of coming up with a business idea, never feel like you just need to sit on your back and hope that an idea comes to you and look at other people and just copy other people's idea. And always try to give it your own tag. Always try to think to yourself, well, how can I market something and how can I make it unique? You have to try to put in your own little twist, because that's only going to help you bring in customers and sales, which obviously we're going to be talking about later on in the video as well. But see here, if you're thinking to yourself, I don't have a lot of money and I want to start a business, and a lot of businesses, well, they demand a lot of money and I need to put in a 10, 15, 20, 30,000 pounds. Actually, some of the best businesses you can start are service-based businesses. Now, what is a service-based business? Let me try to explain that. A service-based business is where you provide a service to someone and they pay you a fee in exchange for that service. And so, for example, a video editor is a service-based or can be classed as a service-based business, because you are video editing for someone, they're paying you a fee, and maybe, to be fair, you hire someone else to bring on more work, and then you pass that work on, you keep a little cut, and then you're also doing your work. And so now that you can see how that can become a service-based business. The same way, a recruitment company is a service-based business, because you are providing a candidate to a company. It's a service you're providing, a candidate to the company, and they are paying you a fee. Service-based businesses, generically speaking, are reliant on your skill and your experience and the theory that you have. And so actually, they are usually very, very low in startup. So video editing, anything to do with social media, a marketing agency, a recruitment company, extremely low in fees. And for example, a recruitment company, you can actually make £5,000-6,000 if you find one successful candidate for a company. And how that would work is, if you have a company looking for someone on a £40,000 a year salary, you as a recruitment company would charge 15%, being £6,000. And so the fee to find a candidate for that company would be £6,000. So service-based businesses, you could definitely make a lot of money. Having said that, there are other vehicles where actually your time, your money, and they demand other things and they can make you a lot more money. But obviously that would mean you need to spend money. For example, you start a tech company or you start an app or you do something, it means that you have to invest some money, and maybe even the return is more, maybe it's not. But once you make money from a service-based business and save money, then you can have a capital of 10, 15, 20,000 pounds and look to invest that in other things. And that's exactly, by the way, what I did. I started my recruitment company, which is what my background is. I started my recruitment company when I was 25 years old. And at 29, I think it was, I started my second business, which, by the way, not many people do, because people want to start 11 businesses in 6 months. And actually, that's very problematic. And I'll go into why exactly that is problematic later on in the video. But I concentrated on one business for 4 years when it made a lot of money, when I saved money, when I learned skills, when I achieved a certain amount. Only then I could think about starting another business. And then from 25 to 29, I started one business. But from 29 to 31, I've started multiple businesses because I have the capital, I have the experience, and I understand exactly what I'm doing. But you see, if we're being completely honest here, you can come up with the best business, you can come up with the best business model, you can have everything laid out. But the reality is this: if you don't get your mindset right, if you're not willing to take the action, nothing will happen. And actually, I would say this part is probably the most important part of most people starting a business, because everyone comes up with a business idea once in their life. Let's be honest, right? You see someone doing something and you think, I could do that too, or whatever it is, whether it's a big idea, a small idea, everyone comes up with some sort of a business idea. And I heard someone once say that a business idea is like everyone has it. I don't want to say what they said. It's a bit offensive. A bum. They said a business idea is like a bum. Everyone has one. But they didn't say bum, they said something else, so maybe it doesn't sound as good. But let me give you some tips on how you can go about working on your mindset and how you can go about taking action. See, the problem here is a lot of people will come up with a business idea, but they won't go on and take the action and won't start the business. I would say actually one of the biggest things that sets me apart from people is if I come up with a good business idea, I go on and take the action. That makes a huge, huge difference because I came up with many business ideas when I was younger as well. And unfortunately, I never took the action. I just didn't do anything. And why? Why did I do nothing? Well, people around me weren't willing to take the risk. People around me kept saying to me, well, what's the point? Or, they kept talking about the negatives. And I was like, yeah, what if I fail? Or what if something goes wrong? You have to understand something, right? The bigger risk here, for everyone listening, remember this one point. The biggest risk and the biggest issue right now is you do not do something and you carry on working a job for the rest of your life, or you do something for yourself and there is a potential that you could change your life. Now, for me, what sounds crazier is not reaching my potential, not giving it a try, and actually living in regret. Because I tell you something, when regret comes knocking on your door, you'll regret not going through the pain of starting a business and taking the action. Because that will feel so much worse than potentially failing on a business. See, you might fail and you might succeed, but you have an option. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And you know what? Even if you fail 3, 4, 5 times, the 6th time you might succeed because it's what you needed to learn. And sometimes people learn by taking the action. Sometimes people learn by committing to what they need to do. So, what is the problem? Why are you not taking action? Well, people say that, what if I fail? Well, I've got a job. I don't have time. That's not true. You're working a job from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You've got the evenings. Even if you spend 2 or 3 hours every single day and you spend time 3 or 4 hours on the weekends, you have a lot of time. You can find 20 hours in the week to start a company for yourself or start a business for yourself. It definitely makes sense. And what is the worst that happens? Say you're working a job right now. What is the worst that can possibly happen? You're working a job and I'm saying to you, take 2 hours out in the evenings from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, have your dinner, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, work on your business. And then on the weekends, 3 hours, work on your business. That means you would have given your business 16 hours every single week. And if you do that every week, I guarantee you will start understanding and seeing some results as long as the idea is good and it makes sense. And obviously, we will go through the rest of the parts of how to make a business successful. But the point being is, I'm trying to find you guys time, trying to make you realize you have to take action, trying to make you realize the mentality is an issue. People come up with ideas, but they never take action. People come up with ideas, but how many people are willing to pick up the phone? How many people are willing to go speak to someone to sell something? How many people are willing to put £100 on advertisements and trying to see if they could do something for themselves? And you hear this a lot. I get this a lot. I hear, well, if everyone can succeed in business, why isn't everyone doing it? Right? Or if this works, why is everyone not doing it? Or if X works, why is everyone not doing it? You know why everyone's not doing it? Because no one wants to take the action. No one actually wants to work. No one actually wants to put in the effort. So if you guys, and I know my family here, you guys watching me, like, I know you guys want to do something for yourselves. And if you're watching until this part, it's very important. Take all the lessons I'm going to give you, but understand that you have to work on your mindset and tell yourself today that I am going to work my backside off. I'm going to put in the hours. I'm going to do everything I can. You know why? You guys have to understand. You need to work the hours. You need to work in the evenings. You need to work on the weekends. And I'm telling you to put in this effort so you can spend more time with your family in 1-2 years. Right? You have to put in the effort. Today, alhamdulillah, I'm able to spend time with my wife, my child. I went on a staycation for 3 days, and now, I did some work for a day, and now I'm going for dinner tonight with my family again. It's like, you want to be able to spend time with your family. Those times are the most cherished times that you will never forget. When you're 60 years old, you're not going to talk about when you were working a job. When you're 60 years old, you're going to talk about when you went on a holiday, when you had cuddles with your children, when you spent time with your wife. These things will be the most valuable things. So you need to be able to create these memories a lot more. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is be able to find an exit from your job and be able to start a business which gives you free time as well as money. So promise me guys now, just in the comments, give me, I'm going to work hard. Like make it we are gonna work hard, and I will help you guys throughout. This video is a long video where I'm giving you guys as much value as I possibly can, because I need you guys to understand, take this value for free. It's free value, right? Write in the comments, we together, because wallahi, I tell you what makes me happy. What makes me super happy is when you guys have success and maybe 0.001% something I said helped you, right? And then you guys see success. I will be there in the crowd and I will be clapping for you guys. So let me know in the comments and tell me, we're going to do this. We're going to work hard. I'm going to work hard from today on. This video has helped you guys, and we're going to work hard and put in the effort. As long as we put in the effort, now we're going to go into the value stuff, right? How are we really going to make business? How are we going to get those sales? How are we going to get those customers? How are we going to make money? And it's important to highlight here, and I know it's a question that comes up sometimes, is how long should I work on a business before giving up and maybe starting something else? How long? To be honest with you, look, I think a year is a good time for you to be able to see some results. But that is dependent, because if you're doing 1 hour a day for a year, that is not comparable to doing 20 hours a week and then say it's different, right? You're putting 300% more effort. And so obviously I would say at least doing 15 hours a week. If you're working a job, you could do 15 hours a week. Don't even pretend to me, okay? Saturdays and Sundays, do 5 hours. If you could do 5 hours, that's 10 hours. Find yourself another 5 hours, man. Come on, like 1 hour a day. You know you can do it, okay? So if you could do 15 hours a week of minimum work on your business, I think after a year, you should be able to see some results. And if you're not seeing results after 1 year of actually doing the work, 15 hours. And then, by the way, the things that I'm going to mention in understanding how to bring in the customers and the sales and make the money, you need to understand that part too. Once you understand all of that, 15 hours every single week for a year. I think after a year, you could probably say there is something going wrong. That's where you need to maybe speak to a mentor. You need to speak to someone, have a call with someone. You know what I mean? It's not something I do. By the way, I'm not selling a service here. It's not something I do, but you need advice of someone. Send me DMs. Add me up on Instagram, send me a DM. Usually I'm very good at replying. So I'm happy to give advice for free. That's not a problem. Now, let's say a year in, you do fail. Let's say your business doesn't succeed. Well, how do you deal with failure? Because I would say that dealing with failure is super important in how your future in business looks. If you understand how to deal with failure, it actually can lead you to be one of the most successful people in business, honestly speaking. So, you fail a year in. The worst thing you could do is just say that was a failure and I learned nothing from it, and that's it. Rather, the mindset should be that I did learn something from the year that I worked on this business. I know where I messed up, reflect on it, see what can be improved, and then guess what? That's exactly what you need to start working on. You need to start working again on another business, but take lessons from your failure. Because the one who will be successful is the one that will learn from his mistakes, learn from the lessons, and learn basically. Because That's actually how you're going to get good. And I would say it is better for you to fail 2 or 3 times in business than for you to succeed the first time. Because if you succeed the first time, maybe there are things that, maybe you don't know how to deal with failure. Maybe you don't know how to deal with when things go wrong. And maybe when things go wrong, you learned something and the lesson you learned was much more valuable than obviously, a business just succeeding, right? And so sometimes what ends up happening is people make money in their business, but because they've never understood failure, they've never learned, they've never understood their lessons, actually they are limited in making a certain set amount. But someone who does go through some failure, someone who does learn, someone who understands how they need to deal with when things go wrong, you'll be surprised. That person actually ends up making a lot of money because they understand much more in regards to the business world. Now, let's say you've got your idea and you're starting to take the steps and everything. Should you come up with a business plan? Honestly, it sounds crazy, but yeah, coming up with a business plan is, in my opinion, pointless, to be honest. A business plan, because you're planning for something, but really and truly, you never really know. You never really know whether it's going to be succeed. And you can't plan for things to go wrong, right? And so I never have done a business plan for any of my businesses. Though I will do a mind plan. I will do it in my mind and I will know how I'm going to go about things. And I might write down, I need to do X and X, but it's not a business plan necessarily. Because then what ends up happening is people waste so much time in coming up with a business plan that they actually forget on the things that really matter. And what does really matter is the numbers. And this is super important. So make sure you listen to this part because it's one of the key parts in this whole video, the numbers. Whatever business I'm going to start, I always look at the numbers. How much is something going to cost me? How much am I going to pay? How much am I going to make net profit? How much am I going to make gross profit? These things matter a lot. And so let's say, for example, you have a product. Let's say you've got a pen, okay? And this product can be whatever, but let's say you have a pen. Now, the pen costs you £5. Let's just keep the numbers very simple, right? The pen's gonna cost you £5 and you want to make profit on that pen. And so you say, well, the pen's gonna cost me £5. I'll sell it for £10. I'm now gonna make £5. Actually, that's not true. Let me tell you why. Because you need to factor in packaging. You need to factor in deliveries. You need to factor in anything around getting that pen from the manufacturer to the customer. And that could involve taxes because there are taxes that you have to pay in the UK and they're called import taxes. And those vary massively and I will ask you to do research on that. But if you're bringing products in from China, if you're bringing products in from somewhere else, then you will have to pay taxes on those products when they come into the UK. But the point here is this, you have to factor in the cost completely and you have to factor in every single little thing. And I am not prepared to go ahead with the business until I completely understand how much it's going to cost me. So if I'm going to sell a product for £35, £40, and I will give you the prime example of me starting a gym clothing brand in the UAE, and I've mentioned this before. And don't worry, I'm not selling you anything. I'm just explaining I am starting a gym clothing brand in the UAE. I'm getting the product manufactured in Pakistan, and maybe I'm looking at manufacturers in China and Turkey as well. I will look at the cost. Let's say it cost me £5. I will look at the cost, I will look at packaging, I will look at taxes, I will look at deliveries, I will look at how much it's going to get the product from me, from the manufacturer to myself, and the product from me to the customer. And I will factor every single cost in. Now, assuming all that cost in now, it's going to cost me £9. Assuming that's going to cost me £9, then I want to be charging the customer, 30, 35, £40, whatever that is. And then your profit is X. But then that could be your gross profit. If you're then going to pay salaries and stuff like that, then your net profit would be very different. And so you have to understand your numbers. And another example of this is when you're selling a product, for example, online, and let's say you're selling a subscription model or you're selling a whatever you're selling. The difference varies a lot. And so I'll give you guys an idea. I have a platform called TeachU. TeachU is a platform where we get educators, we get founders, millionaires, people that have started companies, sold companies, FTSE 100 people, really, really experienced people. We ask them to teach what they know, and then we put it on the platform. And we give access to everyone. You guys can access it as well, to be fair. First month is £1.99, and the second month is £23.99. So the idea is first month, trial it, see how you get on. And by the way, at the end of every single month, we offer a free webinar. Call it free, but call it part of the package, however you want to say it. So imagine you're getting all this information, you're getting all this, experts and specialists in what they know and what they teach. And for example, there are people who have started SaaS companies and sold them for 40 million pounds, started recruitment companies and sold them for millions of pounds. And so a lot of experienced people there. And how much are we charging? £1.99 for the first month, as well as then webinars at the end of the month. So then after that, it's £23.99. That is nothing for how much knowledge we're giving. And there's lessons you can take from this. Make the offer so good that someone can't say no. And that's exactly what we're doing, right? What the platform and what you get access to is definitely worth more than £23.99. But we know if we make the offer so good, people will be interested. And so, by the way, I'll leave the link in the description below. You can sign up if you wish. But the point I'm making here is also this. £23.99 might not sound like a lot, but £23.99 with 1,000 members, which by the way, 1,000 members isn't that much if you're providing a lot of value, is £23,000. If now you have 3,000 members, again, it's not a lot, then you're looking at £75,000. £75,000 of passive income, and you may have some cost and that sort of thing. And to give you an idea how much a company making £75,000 a month would be worth, we would multiply £75,000 by 12, which would be £900,000. And assuming the company now is sold for 8 times what it's making a year, because bearing in mind, it's passive, the costs are very low, it's a very sellable business, you'd be looking at close to 7 to 8 million pounds. Only 3,000 members. That's not a lot. And so now if you think to yourself 10,000, 15,000 members, which again isn't a lot, then you're looking at crazier numbers. And I'm sharing this with you for a particular reason, because actually I believe that getting 1 million people to pay £1 is a lot easier than getting one person to pay £1 million. But then it is easier, I would say, to get 300,000 people to pay £3, right? And so you need to find that fine line in the middle. And generically speaking, it is better to go for the higher price. It is better to have a higher premium price and brand yourself in a way which is attractive. And that's something we need to speak about. But what I'm saying to you guys is when you get your numbers right, when you start focusing on your numbers, and when you are working on your numbers, you'll be surprised how quickly you could be making a lot of money, especially in today's environment where social media, ads, influencers are something at the forefront. And that goes on to how do you sell? How do you sell? How do you get customers in? I'm going to explain some parts to you, and these, again, we're into the very meaty part of the video. And again, if you've found benefit in this video, assuming that there is no way I got this long of a video out by just sitting here for 10 minutes. I had to sit through, and you probably have seen a cutted, edited part. I've sat here for a long time just to give you guys value. So do like the video and share with your family and friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because that gives us an indication to what sort of videos you like. And if I'm giving value you guys benefit from, then obviously it helps us try to create more videos like this. But when you're selling a product, a service, or something like that, you have to understand what pain point you are solving for the customer, right? It's a very easy way to understand sales, and it's a very easy way to understand customer psychology. And that is, every single person, every one of us, we have a pain point. We have an issue that we need resolving. So if you can talk about the problem, and if you can talk about the problem that I maybe have, and then if you can mention the implications of that problem, and then give the solution, you're onto a winner. And in essence, what I've basically explained to you right now is a method called SPIN. SPIN. Actually, it's documented a lot. It's very easy to understand, but it's very, very difficult to implement, right? And SPIN is basically where you understand, and I don't want to give the abbreviations because I'd rather just explain exactly what it stands for, right? Rather, I don't want to mention what it stands for necessarily. I'd rather explain exactly what SPIN does. And in essence, what you're doing is you're talking about a problem that you might have. And let me give you guys an example. You want a car right now because, your car broke down. So I give you a call, or I speak to you, or I send you an email, and this applies to emails as well as calling, as well as marketing. However you want to call it. Sales is the route you take can vary, but sales actually is very, very similar in all aspects. So how I would go about maybe selling you a car is, how are you getting about right now? For anyone in car sales right now, or anyone thinking about anything selling right now, if you're selling anything, take notes, right? And so what I would say is something like, how are you getting about at the moment? And what's the real reason you're looking for a new car? I would try to find that out, right? And say the person says, oh, well, my car's just messed up, and so I'm looking for a new car. Fabulous. I would say, oh, okay, so how are you getting about at the moment? And the person might say something like, I'm getting the bus, I'm getting taxis, I'm getting Uber. Maybe they're getting Uber every day. I'll be like, oh, wow, that must cost you a lot. And they might say, yeah, it does. And then I'll say something like, how much does that cost you? And I might say, £30 a day. Then I'll say something like, oh, wow, £150 a week you're spending on obviously getting up and down to your workplace. Be like, yeah, that is how much I'm spending, right? Now, there's an argument to be made here, actually, to be fair, because Uber might be cheaper than him actually even buying the car. But a lot of people, the way they work in terms of human psychology is they don't want to spend that £150, right? And then later on, I might ask something about his family. Do you have children? Do you have kids? That sort of thing, family. And if the person says yes, or if the person says parents, anything. And then I would ask, oh, like, how are you getting about? Like, if you want to take them somewhere shopping or something like that, obviously you're not driving. Is that you're getting Uber again, or how does that work? And the person might say, yeah, like, I have to get her an Uber again. So what you're basically doing is you're talking about the problem that they're facing right now, and you're reminding them of how much that problem is impacting them. Because a lot of the times, what we do? We know we have a problem, but we don't think about how it is affecting us. We don't want to think about that. It's not a nice thing to think about. So we think about the problem. We don't want to think about how it affects us. So your job as someone selling something, as a product or a whatever sort of thing, is to talk about the problem and then remind them how that is affecting that person. Because once you talk about how that is affecting the person, then it's extremely easy to give them a solution, and that solution being your product or service. And so an example that I have, again, been doing for many, many, many years is in recruitment. When we call a company and the company says they need someone or they are hiring, I will talk about, well, if you're hiring at the moment, is someone else looking after that work? Or what happens if this work doesn't get completed in time? And what if we don't end up finding someone for 2 months? How does that affect the business? Now, that person might not have even been thinking about that, but me asking that question, the problem is now being emphasized by my questions. And so now when I start talking to them, they might be like, yeah, we need to get someone in quite quickly. We need to get someone in within 2 weeks, etc., etc. And then I can say things like, oh, fantastic, not a problem. Let me go and find you someone. And within a case of 48 hours, I will find the CV. But do you think we can interview next week? Because obviously it's a priority role and we want to make sure we get this filled as soon as possible. See, time is money. We want to save as much time as possible. So I will say things that will obviously make the client feel like they need to move a lot faster, because obviously if we can get something over the line, then it means that we can move on to the next thing. Because by the way, time kills all deals. And so it's very important to try to make things happen as quick as possible. You'll end up making a lot more money by saving time. And this, by the way, also applies to marketing, in products, in whatever you want to call it. Because in marketing, what you will do is you will emphasize, if someone doesn't deal with this problem, then it's going to affect them like this. And the solution of your thing is this. For example, healthy eating, for example, right? You might say something like, people are eating, unhealthy at the moment. And if you continue to eat unhealthy, you might have a heart attack. And young people are having heart attacks and getting unwell when they need to eat healthy, because actually it helps with brain fog and so much. And then, by the way, you don't just give the solution. Remember, you emphasize how that is impacting them. You might say something like you might end up getting a heart attack. And then after that, you might say you might not have the same sort of lifestyle that you had before, or you getting a lot heavier may mean that you're not able to have the same sort of relationship with your children because you can't play with them and that sort of thing. So you're emphasizing pain points for that person and then giving the solution of a tea that will help you lose weight, or a food plan that will help you lose weight, or maybe you're a gym person and giving some plans that will help you lose weight. So remember, you paint the situation for the person and then you talk about the problem. Right? You open the conversation up, basically. You talk about the problems that they might be going through, and you find out what problems there are at the moment. You find out the problems, you talk about the problems, and then you talk about how that problem is affecting you, and that could be the person, the client, whoever. You talk about how it's affecting you, and then say, well, you know what? I just so happen to have the perfect product for you. That is, in essence, sales in a very, very quick, summarized way. Though there are hundreds and thousands of objections that we as salespeople have to learn, and I have learned over 10 years. And I don't expect any one of you to just learn that because of a long video on YouTube. But again, if you want me to talk about these things more in detail, let me know in the comments. It helps me create more valuable videos for you guys and helps me create content which I know is going to be benefiting you. Now, also when it comes to marketing your business, because I would say that marketing is super important, understanding sales is key. Essential actually, because it helps you understand how to market also. But selling and sales is very, very important because actually you're always selling, you're always negotiating. You know, you have a manufacturer you need to negotiate with, you have your customers you need to negotiate with, you have all the time you're actually negotiating and selling. Sales is important, you have to understand that. But marketing is, I would say, also as important, especially in today's society, because people go about selling products and services and, you know, whatever your business might well be. But if you're not on social media, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand why you would have a product and not be on social media. And some people say, well, we don't want to be on social media. The reality is you are not getting eyes on your product or your service, and it doesn't make any sense. You have to be on social media. You need to be on social media so your products and services are sold. And people who are on social media can see the power of it. I can see the power of me doing a video, getting 10,000 views, and therefore 3 or 4 people end up buying something that I do. Whereas you will say, I don't want to be on social media, and you're missing out on those sales. Now, there is an argument to be had that, you know, there should be a limitation and, you know, you don't want to overdo social media. And that I completely understand. But social media is super powerful when it comes to marketing. But marketing is not just social media. You're not going to get your customers from just social media. You're going to get your customers from various other avenues. And I would say social media is powerful. I would say an emailing list is super, super powerful. I would say a group is super powerful. I would say actually being active on LinkedIn, though it is somewhat social media, it's not talked about enough. I went from 2,500 followers up to 7,500 followers in a case of 6 months. And that, by the way, is me putting a post out like every 3 or 4 days. And so LinkedIn is untouched. And I would say it's a huge place where you can make a lot of money, get a lot of business, and serious people are on LinkedIn. And it's not to forget, there are other ways that you should be doing things. You should be running ads. You should be running ads on various other platforms, right? TikTok is super powerful. TikTok Shop is super powerful. A lot of people are making a lot of money on TikTok Shop, as well as then having affiliates. You may want to have affiliates and you may want to have influencers that you pay. And with influencers, it totally depends. You want to make sure, and I want to give you some advice here, as someone who uses influencer marketing sometimes, you want to make sure that the person that is talking about the product or service is actually relevant for what you are selling. So if you're selling a pen, you want someone who is maybe in the education sector to sell your pen. You don't want someone who maybe is a meme page and you're going to pay £30 to a meme page and actually try to sell a pen. It doesn't really make sense. Actually, it's better for you to invest £200, £300, £400 and get the market that you are actually trying to sell your product to. So be careful when you're trying to do influencer marketing. Use the influencers that are at least somewhat interlinked with the niche or the market that you are trying to focus on, because it will help you and the results you will get at the back of that will be powerful. But marketing is not just a case of 1 or 2 things. Marketing is multiple ways of getting your product or service out there so as many people can be as interested as possible. And it's never just one way. Run different ads, try different ads, see what works, fix it, amend it, and then get it out again. So always, it's a journey that we're always working on, and there's never a perfect way to do things. But the more you put out, obviously, the more results you're going to get. And I would say organic reach is always the best, right? Organically on TikTok, organically on Instagram, organically on YouTube is always the best way that you're going to get the most attraction to the products that you have. Something which, by the way, a lot of people don't think about, and I think it's super, super crucial, and it's probably a lesson. Yeah, I think it's something very important, is you should always be thinking about when you're starting a business that you should be looking to sell a business within 5 years or within 10 years, or you should be thinking that you're going to sell a business at some point. That's important. And I'll tell you why that's important actually, because some people, for example, if I call a company Abu Musa's platform, so Teach You, okay, Teach You, the educational platform, which we've spoken about before as well. Again, link in the description, £1.99. It's a steal, I promise you guys. Having said that, now if I call it Abu Musa's platform, my selling power on that platform will be so low because it's connected to me. It's interlinked to me. I am the platform. So if a company comes in and they're like, oh, we want to buy Abu Musa's platform, it's like, but who's Abu Musa? If we buy it from you, you're linked to the company. It's a mistake a lot of people make. And so don't limit yourself, especially when it comes to the name. And I will tell you other things that you need to focus on when you're looking to sell a company. And again, by the way, to be fair, we actually have a course on Teach You, which goes into detail on how you would go about selling a company. I think it's very important for you to know how to sell a company. But to briefly go over things that you need to look at is you wouldn't want a company name to limit you when you're looking to sell a company. The more passive your business is, for example, if you have a subscription model, your multiplier on that will be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times multiplier because you have a subscription model. Now, if obviously, for example, you have a business model where someone pays a set amount of money and that's it, then the multiplier on that is extremely low, like 2 or 3. So for example, Teach You, the subscription model has a multiplier of 8, maybe even 9, right? Maybe even higher because it's passive, it's ongoing. If I'm making £10,000 in January, I will make 9,000, 9,500 in Feb, and so on and so forth until December. And if I do nothing, it will still go on and make £7,000, £8,000, right? Because it's a subscription and that's how it works. Now, I have another platform called Recruitmently. I only have 2 things that I actually monetize in a way on social media. 2 things. Teach You platform, $23.99, but £1.99 to get in. Then there's Recruitmently. Recruitmently is, a lot of people started asking me, you set up a recruitment company for yourself. We want to know how to start a recruitment company. So what I did is created a platform where you guys can learn how to start a recruitment company. So that now has a one-off fee. Currently, the price is $1,699. Though I know it's going to be going up because it's not me completely teaching you guys how to start a recruitment company. Actually, what I've done is gone to different directors and asked them to teach how to start a recruitment company. And again, because I was thinking if I ever wanted to sell the company, I wouldn't want it to be Abu Musa's recruitment course. I would want it to be a platform where you can learn recruitment and someone could come in as a buyer and say, okay, this I can buy off you and it's not going to be too much of a problem. Basically, right? So Recruitmently now has, I think 5 or 6 other people that teach recruitment. Some of them 25 years plus experience, 10 years plus experience in how they've started a recruitment company. Also for the customer, it's very valuable because I can give a lot of input. I know a lot of things, but there will always be something that maybe I'm not as good as someone else. That's normal. So why not then pay that person to come teach what you can learn then and get the most value possible, right? So I always try to make the offer so good that the person can't say no, right? And that's what Recruitmently is. And so when it comes to Recruitmently, we have a set amount that we charge. And so if I was to ever sell Recruitmently, the platform, and allow other people to be able to buy Recruitmently, my multiplier on that will be 2, maybe 3 times what it makes in a year. But having said that, if I had ads running, if I had a formula running behind, if I had employees make a big difference because if employees are managing everything and there are 7, 8, 9, 10 employees and everything gets run very, very easily and everything is very smooth and the platform is not dependent on me bringing in new customers, then guess what? Again, the multiplier will be higher. So employees make a big difference. My companies, all of them have employees, and that makes a big difference in if and when I want to sell a company. Because remember, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, it's not a case about just starting a company. You have to think bigger. Making 50, 60, 70,000 pounds a month is actually very possible today with social media, but the big numbers, making 5 million, 10 million, 15, 20 million, 50 million pounds on a company only happens when you sell a company, right? That is the big money. That is the big difference. You have to put these things in place before, and that is what business is. This is what entrepreneurship is. You have to understand this stuff before, so put in the fundamentals, understand this stuff. And so when you are starting businesses, you know that if you ever wanted to sell your company, you would get a high multiplier. And to give you guys a little bit of an idea to how much of the difference can be, let's say you're making £20,000 a month, okay? Profit. And for some companies, the valuation is based on revenue and some companies is based on profit. We can't really go into that because that would probably make this video even longer than it already is. But £20,000 a month multiplied by 12, you're looking at £240,000. Now, if the multiplier you have is 2 or 3, you'll be selling that company for £500,000 to a buyer. But if it's a subscription model, if it's passive, or if you have employees and the money just carries on, basically you're going to get a higher multiplier. The difference between a 2x multiplier and an 8x multiplier would be you selling the company for £500,000 or £2 million, which obviously is a lot of money, but more importantly, understanding that you're not putting in that much work when it comes to passive and creating your business in a way where when you sell it, and if you want to sell it, you're going to get a much higher return. Which does lead me on to when should you hire? When should you start bringing in people? I'll tell you something. I started my recruitment company when I was 25 years old, and I think 4 or 5 months in, we hired the first person. And the person's salary was £25,000 a year, which was a lot of money, to be fair, considering I had just started a recruitment company. I knew that if the person didn't make money for 3 months, I would probably have to let them go. And I'll tell you something. After 3 months, I did have to let them go. But someone that they were speaking to, and that person, because they were doing some work and they were trying to do sales, after I actually saw some decent amount of money come in because of the work that that person had previously put in, we actually saw returns 6-7 months after, which was a key lesson for me at that point actually. And I would say in my recruitment company, only once have I hired someone and that person hasn't made me money. Every single time I've hired someone, the person has ended up making me a profit on my investment in bringing someone in. So it is very, very important for you to bring in employees. And I would say don't even call yourself a business person or an entrepreneur if you don't have employees. It doesn't make sense. You're self-employed. You're not a business person. And I mean that in the most respectful way, because when we understand that, we're willing to grow. But if you already think you're a business person making £10,000, revenue a month, and actually you haven't got employees, you don't really know business, and then you're going around on social media and saying, I'm a business person. It doesn't make sense. You're not. So you're not going to be able to learn because you already think you have reached the pinnacle success of business people. That's not true. And I'll tell you something very interesting actually here, that last month I paid roughly £35,000 in wages, right, to my employees. And you guys might listen to this and think, wow, Abu Musa, that's a lot of money, right? Actually, that's not a lot of money. £35,000, it's very low. I'm crap. £35,000 is nothing. It's probably, 8-9 employees, which isn't a lot of money, right? Now, compare that to a small to medium-sized business, a business that has 25 employees, a business that we look at and we think 25 employees, that's not very big, is it? Well, that's what we think, right? Well, that business, if they were just paying £2,000 to employees, which by the way is very, very low, and obviously you're going to have some senior management and so on and so forth, but if they were just paying everyone £2,000, they would be paying £50,000 in wages. £50,000. And anyone that has 25 employees, they're going to have 1-2 people on £4,000 or £5,000, 3,000, commission, etc. They're going to pay at least £75,000. If I'm being honest, they're paying £75,000 in wages. And yet we have people on social media that will boast a lifestyle when they're making, £20,000 a month. It's nothing to be boastful about, to be honest. We have to understand where the targets are. We have to understand what a business is, what entrepreneurship really is, because only then will we actually aspire to have a company with 40, 50, 60 employees. Because it doesn't really make sense for you to be boasting £60,000 working from home without employees. There's a lot you don't understand. And I guess what I'm saying is there are so many bigger fishes in the sea. We just haven't understood that, right? I understand that because I see these guys, I see companies, I know people are making, £500,000, £600,000, £700,000 a month with, 50, 60 employees. And actually I'm looking at that thinking, this is an organization, this is a business. This person has actually started something. And that's what you should all be aspiring for. You should be aspiring for that. Now, whether you get to that or not is a different conversation. But actually, at least you can think, right, I've got a path, I've got a roadmap, this makes sense, I need to get customers, I need to do the marketing, I need to get my mindset right, and I need to make sure that I work as hard as I possibly can, because none of this will happen until you take the action, until you commit to taking the action. It's impossible. And so I hope that this video has been of benefit to you guys, but I will leave it there. Like this video, share with your family or friends, and if you found benefit in this, let me know in the comments, because I want to try doing more of these type of videos.